Today, February 15th, 1965, this flag becomes officially the national flag of Canada. This is of particular interest to vexillologists. One of these men is the leading vexillologist in the Western Hemisphere. What is your name, please?
My name is Whitney Smith. My name is Whitney Smith.
My name is Whitney Smith.
Only one of these men is the real Whitney Smith. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, and Kitty Carlisle. On To Tell the Truth. And here sitting in for Bud Collier is our host, Robert Q. Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Sitting in once again for Bud Collier, and good evening to you, panel.
Good evening.
Oh, boy, you vexillologists, huh? All right, we have brought to you tonight by, here it is, Direxin. And Direxin dissolves under the tongue for relief of head colds, misery, sinus congestion. Direxin. Now, panel, let's go. Let's open our envelopes. Follow along, please, as I read. I, Whitney Smith, am a vexillologist, an expert on flags. I am the editor of the Flag Bulletin, the only magazine in the world devoted to flags, banners, and pennants, and the proper methods of displaying them. I also design flags. Here is the flag I designed for Mozambique, for use when it becomes an independent nation. Flags have been used for thousands of years. The Roman legions carried their flags called vexilla with them into battle. And flags vary from the uniquely shaped national emblem of Nepal through the 2,600-year-old rising sun of Japan to the flag of Liberia, which is based on our own Stars and Stripes. Incidentally, there is absolutely no support for the legend that dear old lady Betsy Ross made the first American flag. Signed, Whitney Smith. That sounded so harsh about poor old Betsy that I wanted to modify it slightly. Here are three gentlemen. They all claim to be Whitney Smith, authority on flags. Incidentally, the American flag hanging behind these gentlemen is owned by Mr. Whitney Smith. It dates from the administration of George Washington. Now then, let's start this questioning with our lovely Kitty Carlisle.
Thank you, Bob. Number one, what is a panache?
A panache? I don't know.
Number two?
It has something to do with a fanfare of trumpets, I believe.
Thank you. Number three, are you the only vexillologist in the world?
No, there's another one here in New York, but he and I share the honors.
Number two, do you design flags?
Yes, I've designed a number of them.
Number one, who designed the maple leaf that we saw on the monitor?
The maple leaf is designed by a team of 5 in Canada.
5 people?
That's right.
Number two, is it generally 5 people who design flags?
No, committees can be of any size.
Number three, what is the difference between a pennant and a...
Kitty, no. All right, Tom Poston.
Number two, I think I heard number three say that he and another man were the only vexillologists in the world. Would you go along with that?
No, I and several other people throughout the world hold that honor. More than 2.
Would you stick by your answer number three?
Yes, I would. As a matter of fact, I invented the name vexillologist.
Ho-ha-hi. Number one, do you know who Barbara Kulik is?
No.
Number two, do you know?
No.
Number three, do you know Barbara Kulik?
I don't.
She's very interested in flags and so forth, so I wondered if they might know. Why, do you know Barbara?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anybody in the audience know Barbara?
We'll find out about Barbara later. Let's go to Peggy Cass now.
You know, Vexilla sounds like Vexilla the monster in a movie. You know, Vexilla. Number two, the Canadian flag finally narrowed down to a choice of 2. This one obviously won. What was the other flag like?
I believe it was a similar flag, but it had blue stripes on it and 3 leaves.
Thank you. Number 3, do you agree with that?
Yes.
Thank you. Number 1, you said that Betsy Ross had nothing to do with it, but in Philadelphia I've been in a house with a big government plaque on it that said she sewed it up right there in that house.
Well, historians now believe that while Betsy Ross did, in fact, sew many flags, that she did not sew the first one.
Well, I must say that the city of Philadelphia is putting something over on the general public.
Think about poor Betsy. All right, Orson Bean.
That's in addition to the water. Number 1, the flag of which tiny African nation bears a picture of the hated Gaboon viper on it?
I don't recall any with a viper on it.
Oh, well,
there
you
are
never
several
would've-
other animals, and there are snakes in several of the insignias and
Right.
emblems.
Number 3, Nepal. How is this curious thing shaped that they have?
Well, it's in the shape of 2 mountains. Nepal, having so many famous mountains, they designed their flag after this
I see.
topographical.
Number 2, don't tread on me, which...
We won't, Orson, but right now we'll ask you to vote, if you will, without consultation panel. Mark your ballots and select vexillologist number 1. Not vexillologist, number 2, or number 3. That's a tough word, vexillologist. All right, have we all marked?
Yeah.
All right, Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 1 because I think that even if number 3 did invent the word, that still there must be other experts on flags more than just a couple.
All right, Peg.
Well, I voted for number 3, because when he talked about Nepal, he said it was like the mountains and everything, and that's where Sherpa Tenzing comes from, so I voted for number 3. Sherpa Tenzing.
Friend of Barbara Kulik's,
That's
Tom.
right.
Orson, for whom did you vote?
Sherpa Tenzing.
Name.
All right, he's a famous man in that country. Number 2 is my choice. It's him.
All right, Kitty.
I voted for number 3 because number 1 didn't know what a panache was, and a panache is a plume on a medieval knight's helmet. And number 2 said it was a fanfare of trumpets, and I didn't ask number 3, so I believe it's number 3.
Well, there you go. There's the reasoning, and there are the votes. Now then, let's find out which of these 3 gentlemen is, I wish he'd never made up this word if it is he, is the real vexillologist or flag authority. Will the real Whitney Smith please stand up?
Hot. That's marvelous. Mr. Smith, I would never have suspected. Tell me, how many flag authorities are there?
Well, we have 225 subscribers to our flag bulletin, and I would say maybe 25 would really rate as experts.
I see. And what about poor Betsy? You mean really?
No, she made flags
But
for the
not
government.
the first.
Not the first.
Oh, it's a
Paul
pity.
Revere didn't do that right either.
No.
He didn't. He got caught. The guy named William Dawes did it.
Right. Number 1, you were excellent fibber. Let's find out about you, sir.
My name is Lincoln Worden, and I'm a stockbroker for Laird, Bissell, and Meads in New York.
Very good, very good. Number 3, you got yourself 2 votes. You're an excellent fibber. Tell us who you are, sir.
I'm Paul Parker, Jr. I'm an art director for the Phillips Petroleum Company.
Oh, that's marvelous. Well, gentlemen, as you see, there have been 3 incorrect votes, which means a total of $750 for you. Congratulations. On your way out, we have a gift box of fine products from the makers of Direxin for each of you. Thank you so much. Good night. Meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Bill Anderson.
My name is Bill Anderson.
My name is Bill Anderson.
Panel, would you please listen while I read? I, Bill Anderson, was a college student 6 years ago. Today, I am generally considered to be the top composer of country music in the nation. Country or hillbilly music accounts for almost half of all the record sales in these United States. One of my songs sold over 3 million copies. Country music's equivalent of the Oscar is the BMI Award. I have won this award 23 times to date. In the 6 years since I left college, I have written some 350 published songs. Signed, Bill Anderson. All claim to be Bill Anderson, composer of country music. Let's start this cross-examination with a gentleman who is currently starring and brilliantly in Mary Mary at Mineola, Long Island, Orson Bean.
Bless you, buddy. Number 1, which label does Elmo Farnsworth record for?
I don't know, sir.
Number 3, Elmo Farnsworth? Number 2?
I don't know.
All right, number 2, what kind of a voice does Tex Ritter have? I mean, in the range. High, low, in between?
Tex Ritter in the
Number 2.
range. Number 2, very low.
Number 1, is most country and Western music recorded in New York or Hollywood or where?
No, sir, Nashville, Tennessee.
Number 3, who wrote Old Dog Tray? And why didn't he answer?
I don't know.
Number 2, Old Dog Tray?
I don't know.
Number 1.
I'm not sure. I think Stephen Foster.
Good grief.
There you go. Thank you, Orson. Kitty.
Number 3, I don't wish to be personal, but why are you wearing this costume?
Well, it's all I had.
Oh, that's marvelous.
There must be some other reason, number 1. Why are you wearing this costume?
I'm afraid that's all I had, too.
Well, number 2, what is your formula for this fantastic success, or don't you have one?
I don't have one.
Number 3, do you record in Nashville?
Yes, ma'am.
Number 1, where did you go to music school?
I never went to music school.
You never went to music
No, ma'am.
school? Did you? No, oh, dear me. Number 2...
Sorry, Kitty. Tom.
Thank you. I love it. Number 3, who makes the Fender bass?
The Fender Guitar Company.
Thank you, number 3. Number 2, who owns the Fender Guitar Company?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you know number 1?
No, sir.
You know number 3?
No, I don't.
Number 1, do you know Scruggs' partner?
Flatten Scruggs, yes, sir.
Number 2, what is the name of their aggregation?
I don't understand you.
With what group do they play and perform?
Oh, the Flatten Scruggs Band.
Any more, number 3?
They called their band the Foggy Mountain Boys.
Thank you. Do you know a great guitarist, number 3, in Houston by the name of...
That's one of the best questions I ever heard.
Tom was thinking of that great guitarist, Barbara Kulick. Now then, Peggy Cass.
Number 1, if they give the Oscars the BMI award, you've only been writing them for 6 years. How come you've gotten it 23 times? They must give it out every 3 days.
I write a lot of songs.
And I mean, how often do they give the prize?
Once a year.
Well, you've gotten it 23 times in 6 years. Somebody's goofed. I don't mean that they're not worth it, but I mean, if you've only been writing for 6 years, how come 23 times you've gotten it?
Well, it depends on the number of times that your song comes up staying in the top 15.
Oh, I see. Number 3, who's Minnie Pearl?
She's a comedian on the Grand Ole Opry.
Thank you. Number 3, are those snowflakes on your costume?
Yes, ma'am, I think so.
Number 2, who's Joan Baez?
She is a folk singer.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, panel. Once again, it's time to vote. Without consultation, please mark your ballots, selecting, if you will, number 1, number 2, or number 3. And again, I'm curious to see how you vote. Everybody said? Okay, Tom, how did you vote this time?
I voted for number 1, Bob. And I think CBS just bought the Fender Bass Company. I'm surprised that they weren't aware of that.
Is that right? Peggy?
Well, I goofed. I voted for number 3, but now I just remembered he had to look down at his own suit to see if they were snowflakes. If his suit would be in the closet, he'd know they were snowflakes.
Orson?
I was all set to vote for number 3, and there's something about the way he said that Minnie Pearl was a comedian in the Grand Ole Opry, even though she is, that shifted me over to number 1. It's a bad reason, but the best I could come up with.
All right, Kitty.
I voted for number 3. I thought number 3 gave the best answers, and I still don't understand why they're wearing those costumes.
Well, you may find out in a minute. All the votes are in. Their minds are made up. Do you at home agree with them? Well, we'll find out now. Let's see which of these 3 gentlemen is the real composer of country music. Will the real Bill Anderson please stand up?
No.
Those of you who are fans of one of radio's greatest and oldest shows, Grand Ole Opry, are familiar with this fella, Bill Anderson, because not only is he a composer, but a darn good performer. And as a matter of fact, he's been kind enough at these ridiculous rates to sing for us tonight one of his own compositions. This is called Poor Folks. Here's Bill.
My daddy was a farmer, but all he ever raised was us. He dug a 40-foot well, hit 36 gallons of dust. The Salvation Army gave us clothes to wear. A man from the county come to cut our hair. We live next door to a millionaire, but we wasn't nothing but poor folks. We was poor folks living in a rich folks' world. We sure was a hungry bunch. If the wolf had ever come to our front door, he'd have had to brought a picnic lunch. But we had something in our house money can't buy. Kept us warm in the winter, cool when the sun was high. For whenever we didn't have food enough and the howling winds would get pretty rough, we patched the cracks and set the table with love. 'Cause that's what you do when you're poor folks, and we want nothing but poor folks. Mama and Daddy was poor folks, brother and sister was poor folks, and even Robert Q was poor folks.
Thank you, Bill. That's very good, Bill. Thank you. As a matter of fact, thanks to Bud Collier, you know, I'm not such poor folks after this couple of weeks on the show. Well, very good, Bill. We do thank you. All right, let's find out now what these other fellas are. Huh? Number one, would you tell us who you really are, sir?
Yes, my name is Scott Jackson, and I'm manager of Cokesbury Bookstore in New York City.
And number two, I wonder if you'd tell us who you really are, sir.
My name is Tracy Stallard. I'm a pitcher with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Well, there you are. There have been, as you see, gentlemen, 2 incorrect votes, which means a total of $500. And on your way out, there's a gift of fine products from the folks at Direxon for each of you. It's been a ball. Thank you so much. Good night. Thank you, Bill. Now let's take time out for a brief film, then back in just a minute. Let's meet our third team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Joan Rich.
My name is Joan Rich.
My name is Joan Rich.
All right, panel, would you follow along, please, as I read? I, Joan Rich, and my husband have just written a book about New York City. It's not a guide, but rather a handbook for recent arrivals on how to act like a native. Among our more practical hints are how to park your car in the city even though it's clearly impossible, how to throw a successful cocktail party in Manhattan, how to keep your dignity during the subway rush hour, how to give directions to a cab driver, how to find an apartment you can almost afford, and how to break a lease. We call our book How to Be a New Yorker. Signed, Joan Rich. All right, 3 attractive ladies all claim to be Joan Rich, co-author of How to Be a New Yorker. Peggy, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Number 2, how do you keep your dignity on the subway during the rush hour?
I carry a hat pin.
Well, yes, bound to make a lot of friends. Tell me, number 3, what's alternate parking?
That's when you move your car from one side of the street to the other.
Well, number one, is that your successful method of finding a place to park?
You mean alternate parking?
Yes.
Sometimes. It has to be.
Well, I never can find a place to park except those garages where you can never get it out again. So what is the successful method to find a place to park?
Well, one way is to go out, take turns if you have a roommate, whether it's a husband or otherwise, and take turns and go out and look for a space.
Well, you wouldn't keep him long.
Orson, let's
I know a guy who found a parking space the other day, so he ran out and bought a car. Number 3, do you have a chapter in your book called something like How to Relax and Enjoy Being Mugged in the Park? Or do you deal with that at all?
No, there's no chapter like that.
Number 2, do you deal with anything like about getting mugged or having your valuables?
Never happens in New York.
Oh, it never happens. All right. Number 1, do you have anything about how to pretend you're a diplomat and steal license plates from the UN or anything?
Well, it isn't really meant to be a serious book.
Oh. Number 2, that wasn't meant to be a serious question.
Thank you, Orson. And I wonder if we want you in our city. Now, Kitty Carlisle.
Number 2, are you a New Yorker?
Yes, I am.
Number 3, are you a New Yorker?
Yes, I am.
Do you have a chapter on jaywalking, number 1?
No.
Do you have, how do you give a successful cocktail party in New York, number 2?
Well, you have lots of people, crowd them in, and stir.
Number 1, how do you get a reservation in a restaurant when there is none?
Well,
Do you
money...
use a fake name?
Usually money talks.
Oh, you think the head waiter will...
Thank you, Kitty. Tom Poston.
Thank you. Number 1, are you from New York?
No.
Number 2 was, did you write this alone?
No, I wrote it with my husband.
That's right, because I read it. And I appeared on a show with him. Do you remember what the name of that show was?
The Les Crane Show.
Thank you. Number 3, who else was on that night with us when we were talking about the book?
Hermione Gingold.
It is time now to vote, if you will, and mark your ballots, selecting, if you will, either number 1, number 2, or number 3. Now then, have we all marked? Okay, Tom, how did you vote?
I voted for number 1, unless it was a mistake on my part. I think I remember, because I read this very enjoyable book, that they came from out of town, Texas maybe. So I voted for number 1.
All right, Peg.
Well, I voted for number 1, because the other 2 come from New York, and she says this is how to act like a native. But if you are a native, you don't have to act like a native, and she's not a native. See?
No, but that's all.
Well, it's a ridiculous reason nobody in New York comes from New York. I voted for number 2.
All right. Kitty.
I voted for number 1. She seemed to have the authority to go with someone who wrote this book, and I believe that coming from out of town would help to write a book like that.
Well, all right. There are the votes. They have made up their minds. Majority looks like for number 1. Maybe you agree or maybe you don't. Well, let's find out now which of these ladies is the real co-author of How to Be a New Yorker. Will the real Joan Rich please stand up? Well, Joan, congratulations to you and your husband on what I assume Tom said must be quite a good book, eh?
A lot of fun. I read the whole thing. It's great.
Good. You know what I was just thinking? I was thinking, why doesn't somebody write a book for native New Yorkers on how to act so they won't look and sound like one?
We cover that, too.
Do you cover that? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Sounds fascinating. I must get a copy of that. Number 1, let's find out about you. Got 3 votes. You're an excellent fibber. Let's find out who you really are.
My name is Madame Bilan, and I own a facial salon for men and women.
I'm curious, number 1, where is your home? Where are you from originally?
Well, I'm really a gypsy, but I'm from Palm Beach, originally.
All right. And number 3, let's find out about you. What is your name?
My name is Barbara Bergstrom, and I'm secretary to newspaper columnist Earl Wilson.
Again, Barbara, I ask you the same question. Where is your hometown?
New Jersey.
You were fibbing then, kind of. All right. Oh, and let's go back to our real lady, Joan Rich. Joan, are you from New York?
Brooklyn.
You are. Good for you. All right, there you go. Well, ladies, you've done very, very well. There have been 3 incorrect votes, which means a total of $750 for you to share. Thank you very much, and on the way out, you'll find a gift box of fine products of Direxin for each of you. Thank you. Good night. Go all the time we have for tonight. Panel, you were brilliant, as usual.
Yes, well, we always try our best, you know.
And our best to you from Elmo Farnsworth.
Oh, thank you.
Not at all. Now then, panel, join us again next week. Panel, you join us. Never mind them. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon on our daytime show. Until then, this is Robert Q. sitting in for our friend Bud Collier, who kind of reminds you this way to always tell the truth. Good night.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Woodson, Bill Topman production. To Tell the Truth has been brought to you by Direxin. Dissolves under the tongue for relief of head colds, misery, sinus congestion. Direxin. This is Johnny Olson speaking for To Tell the Truth, the program recorded.